Bet you've seen a rabbit come out of a hat, but not a bag with a snake in it. Good morning. Hi, I'm Samantha Nelson, and I'm your friendly neighborhood snake enthusiast. And this is Gretel. And as you can see, she's a snake. Gretel here and her dad, Hamburger, are boa constrictor imperators, also known as BCI for short. Boa constrictor imperators make their home in Mexico, Central America, and South America. They live there with a lot of other large constrictor species. Boa constrictor imperators actually get up to be about 13 feet. Well, actually, the females do. Hamburger is a male. He's tapped out at about 8 feet. Gretel's got a little bit of work to do. You know, she's got a little bit of growing to do, but I'm looking forward to her being an adult. So, you might be wondering, like, Sam, why snakes? That's what my mom asks me sometimes. She's like, Sam, why snakes? There's things like dogs, you know, why can't you just get a dog? Well, I own a lot of reptile species. These two are just one of the many species that I own. They're incredibly rewarding pets. The reason that they're so rewarding is because they're really unique. Every single species, even snakes as individuals, they're all different. I spend a lot of time observing my snakes. I mean, not these two, they're a little boring, to be honest. But I do take Hamburger for walks around my block, which the kids love. That's great. We all come and pet the snake. So let's talk about snakes. Pet snake care. Snakes are some of the simplest pets to own. And this comes from if you are learned about the species that you're interested in, honestly, everything after that is just gravy. To have a happy snake, you need an enclosure that is big enough for the snake. This enclosure is actually not big enough for Hamburger. He lives in something much bigger permanently. But once you know the size requirements that your snake needs, it's easy to get that enclosure. That's the down payment, really. You need a heat source because snakes are cold-blooded. They cannot regulate their own body temperature, so you need to provide them with that so they can kind of go in and out and digest their food. And then after that is the fun part. You get to decorate your enclosure, you get to make it look like their natural environment, and that's where all the unique and rewarding behavior comes from, because you can observe what they would do in the wild in your home. Snakes get a notoriously bad rap, and I'm sure everybody here is a little familiar with that. You've probably heard one of the many myths of snakes, and I want to address those myths because they're really damaging to these wonderful, honestly, super cool animals. So, myth number 1, snakes are slimy. Well, as you can see, Gretel's not dripping everywhere. She's pretty dry. There are no slimy snakes. Snakes are not animals that secrete any ooze. They're actually very pleasant to touch, most species. Gretel here is actually quite soft. Most constrictor species are pythons. They have very smooth, soft skin. That's because their scales are really small. But on the other hand, my king snakes or my colubrids, from the family Colubridae, they are quite rough to the touch. It's kind of like feeling soft gravel, simply because the family has evolved in that way so that it's just their environment. So, no, snakes are not slimy. Myth number 2, snakes are mean. No, snakes are not mean. Each snake is an individual, and just like a dog, if you understand the snake's behavior, you'll be able to avoid any sort of mishappenings or accidents. Like I can tell right now that Gretel, she doesn't care. I could mess around with her face. I could open her mouth if I want. She's not concerned about me at all. And she's not concerned about you either. She's saying hello. Hamburger over here, he's a little upset, as you can see. He's not super jazzed about being on stage, but he is telling me that, maybe I don't want to be touched right now, and that's fine. I understand these two because I've spent a lot of time observing them and handling them. There are snakes that I do not trust, and I don't handle them on my own. So snakes are only as mean as you let them be. Obviously, it's always good to practice safe handling behavior when you're with a snake, and if you don't trust that snake, don't handle them. But Sam, the snake will choke you to death and eat you. Well, Gretel can't do that, probably, right? She's very tiny. Even Hamburger, I'm not worried about. I'm going to be honest, I'm not worried about any of my snakes doing that, no matter how big they are. Snakes, like I said before, they're cold-blooded, so they have a very slow metabolism. This is the reason why they can only eat like once a week or once a month, depending on the species that they are. And this is because otherwise they'll get fat, one. And two, they eat prey that's about as big as their midsection. So Hamburger over here, he eats large rats. And honestly, this dude is such a diva that sometimes if it's a little too big, he won't eat it. Because he's like, that's too much work, Mom, I can't do that. So no, Hamburger's not interested in choking me to death or eating me. Shockingly as that is. Hamburger also, in general, so the word constrictor, a lot of people misunderstand that the word constrictor actually means that they constrict the blood flow of their prey. Constrictors do not choke anything. They actually constrict the blood flow to the brain, and it's a really efficient way of killing something. Hamburger and Griddle don't really need to deal with that because their prey is already dead when I give it to them, but they sure like to put on a show for me. They're like, hey, Mom, I killed the dead thing again. It's like, good job, you guys, you did it. Proud of you. So that brings us to myth number 4. But what about venomous snakes? Venomous snakes are scary, like they can kill us. Well, yeah, but so can a lot of things. Snakes are only as dangerous as you let them be. If you respect a snake's space, they will respect your space. Venomous snakes are no different than that. If you encounter a venomous snake in the wild or a snake you suspect to be venomous, just leave them alone. They would much rather run away from you than try to attack you. Because snakes have a slow metabolism, they can't expend too much energy, and if they do, they could die, because they need that energy to hunt their prey, and if they use too much of it running away or attacking something that is just invading their space, they could very well not be able to eat later and die. Also, a lot of snakes are victims of mistaken identity. King snakes, for example, they're very good at rattling their tails to mimic a rattlesnake, but because of this, a lot of people kill them because they think they're a rattlesnake, and it's just very sad. Hundreds of snakes die every year because of mistaken identity. So all these myths, what it comes down to is that these are very misunderstood creatures. These myths are super damaging. They don't really give them the respect or the cheerleading they deserve as animals. One really awesome thing about snakes is that you don't need the time suck that dogs do. As much as we all love dogs, I'm sure there's a lot of dog fans in here. Dogs are wonderful, but they require a schedule, they require a lot of time, they require a lot of emotional energy. Snakes, you can handle them every day. You could not look at them for a week. Sometimes I think Hamburger would prefer I don't look at him for a week. But overall, you don't need that emotional time suck. And that's very important for people who have busy schedules. And if you just want a cool pet that you can come home to and like observe, wow, it's just so much fun. Sometimes I come home and I'm just like, I go over to my frilled dragon enclosure or my milk snake enclosure and I just look at them and I'm like, you're so cool. How are you so neat? That's awesome. So one thing that makes me really sad is that people don't give snakes a chance. Because of the myths that I mentioned, a lot of people are fearful of snakes, and I understand that we fear things we don't understand, right? You know, we're scared of the dark because we don't know what's in there. For snakes, this is a life or death sentence on many occasions. For example, rattlesnakes down in Texas are subjected every year to something called the rattlesnake roundup, where thousands of rattlesnakes die because we don't like rattlesnakes. That's pretty much it. They're incredibly important to our ecosystem. If we didn't have snakes, we would be so overrun with pests, it would be crazy. So what really makes me extra sad is that people won't even give them a chance. Like, as you can see, Griddle's not doing anything. She's actually looking out at all you guys. She's saying, hey, look at all these new friends I have here today. That's pretty cool. But on top of being some of the most rewarding pets you'll ever own, they are not needy. They don't require a whole lot of extra care outside of the basic needs of a reptile, needing a heat element, an enclosure that can fit them, and having that decor in there to make them comfortable. So what does this mean for us, right? In Wisconsin, I'll bet you didn't know that we have 22 species of native snake. This includes 2 venomous species, timber rattler, if you are familiar. So these snakes are incredibly important to our ecosystem because, I don't know if you guys know, but Wisconsin grows like a lot of corn, right? We produce a lot of vegetables, produce, etc. Every year, the produce and farmers in general just have problems keeping pests at bay because when you grow a lot of produce, of course, pests are going to want to eat it. This is anything from squirrels to mice to rats to voles to moles, all of these things. Snakes are natural pest control. Nature has given us some of the most effective natural pest control, and we don't let them do their jobs. I don't think anyone here likes pesticides. I would be surprised to hear somebody in the world who says, yeah, pesticides, I love that on my food, it's great. If we let snakes do their jobs, we would have far fewer crops lost to pests, and in general, we would have fewer pests in our environment, in our homes, in our yards. So when you see that little grass snake, hanging out in your garden, cheer for him. Give him a little thank you card, because clearly there's something there that you don't want there, and he's going to take care of that. So if anything today, after this talk, if you could go just meet a snake, you don't have to like it. You don't have to be like in love with the snake. You don't have to go home and be like, I'm going to go get a boa constrictor today, and I'm going to bring it home. You don't have to do that, but give them a chance. They're not as scary as they look, and honestly, you might find a new best friend. Thank you.